I had always loved the thrill of new cities, the way they buzz with life, the hidden corners that promise secrets, the streets that seem familiar yet unknown. But that afternoon, standing at the intersection of streets I didn't recognize, I realized excitement can quickly turn into fear. My phone had died, my map was useless, and I was utterly alone in a city that suddenly felt enormous and indifferent. I wandered aimlessly, hoping some landmark would look familiar. But every turn seemed to bring more confusion, more questions than answers. Street vendors shouted in a language I could barely catch, cars honked impatiently, and pedestrians hurried past, wrapped up in their own worlds. I tried to calm myself, taking deep breaths, telling myself that getting lost wasn't the end, it was part of the adventure. Yet, anxiety gnawed at me. And then I noticed her. She was standing near a small cafe, flipping through a notebook, completely unaware of the chaos around her. There was something about the way she moved, calm, assured, like she belonged to the city in a way I desperately wanted to. Something told me she could help. I approached hesitantly. "Excuse me," I said, my voice a little shaky. "I'm lost." She looked up, and just for a moment, the world seemed to pause. Her eyes were kind, curious, and somehow grounding. "Lost?" she asked, tilting her head. There was no judgment in her voice, only genuine interest. I nodded, explaining my predicament as clearly as I could. The more I spoke, the more I felt an odd sense of relief washing over me. She didn't roll her eyes, she didn't sigh impatiently. She simply listened. And when I finished, she smiled, a smile that carried warmth, reassurance, and a hint of mischief. "Come with me," she said. "I know this city like the back of my hand. You're not going to get lost if I'm with you." Something in me wanted to argue, wanted to insist I could manage on my own. But deep down, I knew I didn't want to. And so, I followed her into the winding streets of this unknown city, unaware that by the end of this day, my life, and my heart, would never be the same. As we walked, the city slowly began to feel less like a labyrinth and more like a story waiting to be discovered. She moved with confidence, weaving through crowded streets and narrow alleys as if every corner whispered secrets only she could hear. I followed her, amazed at how naturally she navigated the chaos around us. "I come here often," she said casually, glancing at me with a playful smirk. "It's easy to get lost if you're not paying attention, but if you know where to look, the city shows you its soul." I laughed nervously. "I'm clearly not paying attention, then." She chuckled, the sound warm and unforced, like sunlight spilling through an open window. "Don't worry. That's why I'm here." We stopped at a small square where street performers played music that echoed between the buildings. She pointed out little things, the way the cafe on the corner had the best pastries, the mural hidden behind some scaffolding, the bookstore tucked in a narrow lane. I tried to memorize everything, but truthfully, I was more captivated by her than the city. There was a way she made the world feel alive, like even the most ordinary streets could hold magic if you looked closely enough. I found myself asking questions I wouldn't normally ask a stranger. Her favorite cafes, her childhood memories of this city, what made her laugh. And she answered, but with a curiosity of her own, turning questions back to me, making me feel like I wasn't just a lost tourist, I was someone worth knowing. At one point, she paused at a bridge overlooking a canal, leaning against the railing with a reflective expression. "I like helping people who are lost," she said softly. "Sometimes it's just a city, sometimes, it's life. We all need someone to guide us now and then." Her words struck a chord deeper than I expected. It wasn't just the city I had been lost in, it was myself. And in that moment, I realized something surprising. I didn't just want directions. I wanted her. And maybe, just maybe, she felt it too. The sun was beginning to dip below the skyline, casting golden hues over the city streets. Shadows stretched long, and the energy of the city subtly shifted, from bustling chaos to a calmer rhythm. I realized we had been walking for hours, yet it didn't feel tiring at all. With her, every step felt purposeful, every moment tinged with a strange, quiet magic. We stopped at a small park tucked between old apartment buildings. Children played in the distance, their laughter mingling with the soft rustle of leaves. She led me to a bench, and we sat, both catching our breath. I wanted to ask her something, anything, but the words stuck in my throat. There was an unspoken tension building between us, a pull that neither of us seemed ready to name. You know, she said after a pause, it's rare to meet someone and instantly feel understood. Most people don't notice the little things. But you notice. Her eyes met mine, steady and unwavering, and I felt like she could see everything, the confusion, the hesitation, even the small corners of my heart I usually kept hidden. I laughed softly, embarrassed. I don't even know you, and I feel like I've been talking to you forever. That's how some people get under your skin, she said, smiling. And some, just change the way you see the world. Her words lingered, echoing in my mind long after the moment passed. I wasn't expecting to feel this sudden, magnetic connection with a stranger in a city I didn't even know. But there she was, sitting across from me, and it felt as though the city had shifted to make room for us, like the universe itself had conspired to bring us together. We talked about everything and nothing, the kind of conversation that flows naturally, with pauses that don't feel awkward but rather comforting. I shared stories I hadn't told anyone, and she listened, really listened, without judgment. And in return, she shared pieces of herself, just enough to make me feel like I was seeing someone real, not a perfect image. When the sky turned a deep indigo, dotted with the first stars, I realized I hadn't thought about being lost once. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And the thought terrified and exhilarated me at the same time. Maybe this wasn't just about a city anymore. Maybe it was about her. Night had fully settled in, and the city glowed under streetlights and neon signs. The streets we walked earlier felt different now, quieter, intimate, as if they existed solely for us. I realized the moment I had been trying to ignore. The pull toward her was no longer subtle. It was undeniable, magnetic, and it scared me. We paused near a small fountain, the water shimmering in the lamplight. She leaned on the edge, looking at the ripples, and I stood beside her, feeling the weight of something unspoken between us. I wanted to say so many things, but the words tangled in my throat. So instead, I watched her, memorizing her profile, the way her hair caught the light, the gentle curve of her smile. Do you ever feel like life throws people together for a reason? She asked softly. I hesitated. I wanted to say yes, but then I realized that admitting it would mean acknowledging something bigger, a desire I wasn't sure I was ready to face. Maybe, I said, finally. Or maybe it just happens. She turned to me, eyes searching mine, and in that instant, the city, the streets, the confusion of earlier all faded. It was just us. I could see it there, in the way her hand brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, in the quiet intensity of her gaze, that she felt it too. I took a step closer, my heart pounding, and suddenly the choice was clear. I didn't want to go back to the safety of my old life, to pretend nothing had shifted inside me. I wanted her. Not the city. Not a fleeting adventure. Her. Then, stay, she whispered. The simplicity of the words shocked me, and yet it felt like the universe itself had spoken through her. And in that moment, I knew that getting lost wasn't a mistake, it was a blessing. Because without being lost, I never would have found her. We stood there, under the glow of the city lights, a fragile moment stretched between us. And as I reached for her hand, I realized something profound. Some people don't just pass through your life. Some change everything. And she was one of them. We walked again, but this time it was different. The city that had seemed vast and intimidating earlier now felt like it had shrunk to just the streets we shared. Every sound. The distant laughter of night wanderers, the soft clinking of glasses from nearby cafes, the hum of the tram, felt like it existed for us alone. I couldn't stop thinking about the moment at the fountain. Her words, her gaze, the subtle tension between us, it had all led to this point. And yet, a small voice in my head whispered doubts. Could this really be real? Could a single encounter in a new city truly change the course of your life? But as I looked at her, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the streetlights, the answer became undeniable. This wasn't just a fleeting spark, it was connection. Deep, inexplicable, undeniable connection. And in that instant, I knew what I had to do. I don't want to go back to the life I had before, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. Not if it means leaving you behind. She smiled, a mix of relief and something more, something tender, almost shy. Then don't, she said simply. Stay. See where this goes with me. And I did. We spent the rest of the evening exploring hidden alleys, tiny bookshops, and quiet parks I never would have found on my own. But it wasn't the city that mattered, it was her. Every laugh we shared, every story we exchanged, every small gesture, the brushing of hands, the exchange of smiles, made me realize that sometimes getting lost isn't about losing your way. It's about finding exactly what you were searching for without even knowing it. By the time the city lights flickered in the early morning, I understood something important. Choosing her wasn't just a choice, it was destiny. And it was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. She had changed everything, the way I saw the city, the way I saw life, the way I saw myself. And as we stood together, hand in hand, watching the sunrise paint the streets in gold, I whispered softly, I'm glad I got lost. She laughed, leaning her head on my shoulder. Me too, she replied. Me too. Because sometimes, getting lost leads you to exactly the person you were meant to find. And in choosing her, I discovered a part of myself I never knew existed, a part that finally felt home. Weeks passed, but the memory of that day never left me. Every corner of the city held a fragment of our story, the little cafe where we shared pastries and laughter, the narrow lane where she had pointed out a hidden mural, the fountain where everything had changed. The city itself had transformed from a confusing maze into a place of meaning, because it was where I had found her. Being with her wasn't always perfect, life rarely is, but it was real. And that's what mattered. Every challenge, every quiet disagreement, every unexpected turn only made me appreciate her more. She had a way of seeing me, truly seeing me, in a way that no one else ever had. And in return, I learned to see her. The small gestures, the way her eyes lit up when she laughed, the gentle strength she carried even in moments of doubt. I remember one evening, sitting on the balcony of a tiny apartment overlooking the city, watching the lights flicker on one by one. She leaned against me, and I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. I never expected to meet someone like you, she whispered. Neither did I admitted, squeezing her hand. But I'm glad I did. There's a strange beauty in the idea of being lost. It's chaotic, frightening, and sometimes lonely, but it's also transformative. Getting lost in a city had led me to her. And choosing her had led me to a version of myself I didn't know existed, someone brave enough to follow her heart, open enough to trust, and willing enough to take the leap into the unknown. Our story didn't end that night, it was only the beginning. Every day since has been a choice, a conscious decision to nurture what we found in each other. And every day, I am reminded that sometimes, the most extraordinary journeys begin when you let go of control and let life, and love, guide you. I got lost in a new city. But in the process, I found her. And in choosing her, I found everything I was looking for: courage, love, and a home in her heart. Because some people don't just enter your life, they change it entirely. And she changed mine.